In this video, we'll take the 7 Backcountry out to the range and perform an accuracy test at 100 yards with 3 different loads. Then, we'll stretch it out some and shoot some 5-gallon water jugs at 200 yards and then 300 yards, and lastly, out to 350 yards on steel to see how it performs. Does the 7 Backcountry offer something new and improved to the industry? Or is it simply the answer to a question that nobody asked? The 7 Backcountry uses Federal's new steel peak alloy technology, which can be loaded at 80,000 psi and uses a faster burning propellant. Conceptually, the new steel alloy case is supposed to help mitigate recoil and help with barrel erosion. For an optic, we're running the Covenant 5 from Cabela's. It's a 30mm optic with side parallax from 0 to infinity, very audible turrets with a 0 stop, just really good value for your money. About a $350 optic. It's worked really well on every rifle that we've ever put it on. First up was the 175 grain Federal Fusion tipped. We used the 175 grain Federal Fusion tip to sight the rifle in. You can see our first group was well under an inch and our second group was right at an inch. But all in all, this ammo performed really well in this rifle. Next up was the 168 grains Barnes Copper from Federal. And here's a look at our groups with the 168 grain Barnes copper load. This first group was a little over an inch, and our second group was about an inch and a half. And last, we shot a couple of groups with the 170 grain Federal Terminal Ascent. And here's a look at our groups with the Federal Terminal Ascent. Our first group was right at an inch, and our second group came in a little under an inch. So all in all, the Federal Terminal Ascent performed really well in our testing. There's been a lot of discussion online about the 7 Backcountry and its accuracy. Although we didn't get the 1/4 inch groups we got out of our 22 Creedmoor with the 7 Backcountry, all of the groups that we shot were right at 1 inch, which is fully acceptable for most hunting conditions. For the day, the overall velocities were all well over 3,000 feet per second. And that was over 3,000 feet per second with every load that we tested. I'm going to ring that steel plate one time at 100 yards, and then we're going to move that back to 200 and then move it back to 300 and see what happens. All right, let's move it back. And we took this shot at 100 yards on steel just because it's fun. All right. We have our 5-gallon water jug set up at 200 yards, 300 yards, and we have that 8-inch steel plate back at 350 yards. At 350 yards, you can't even make out that 8-inch piece of steel with the naked eye. Without magnification, it's even hard to see that 5-gallon water jug out at 300 yards. First up was our shot at 200 yards with the 175 grain Federal Fusion tipped. And next up, I shot at 300 yards with the Federal Fusion tips. Then we moved back to 350 yards to take aim at the 8-inch target. We took 2 shots at this distance, which proved to be pretty easy work with this setup. So, is the new 7 Backcountry going to be around in 5 or 10 years? At over 80,000 psi? Some are worried about barrel erosion, but honestly, most folks probably don't shoot enough for that to be a valid concern. For your everyday hunter that hits the range once or twice a year and goes hunting a few times a year, it takes 50+ years to do that. If you already own a 7 mag or a 7 PRC, is there any real benefit to picking up a 7 Backcountry? If you don't hunt past a few hundred yards, probably not. This property is actually one of the places that I hunt, and as you can see, despite my afternoon of shooting, the deer didn't seem to mind at all. We've also run a few tests with the 7 Backcountry versus the 30-06. Be sure to check out those videos on the channel as well. As far as ammo availability, I've been ordering ammo online, but I've yet to see 7 Backcountry in stores, even though I hear that some folks have. Let us know what you think about the new 7 Backcountry, And if you think it's worth it, or like the 6.8 Western, in 5 or 6 years, is this thing just gonna fade into obscurity?